party supply section, I have a great idea for a DIY. So I picked up this large bowl. I have this 2 set of plastic bowls, these little mini ones, and then I got this mini size too. So we're gonna put all this together and make a cool DIY for $4 for the structure. Next, I figured out how I wanted to stack up the bowls because I wanted a 3-tier tray system. And I'm gonna use the smaller bowls as my separators, and then my larger bowls are gonna be the 3 tiers. I'm gonna use a combination of E6000 and hot glue to hold the bowls in place. One, because the E6000 is going to hold it longer, and I used the hot glue so it would dry quickly, so I could go ahead and spray paint it. Once I have all the bowls in place, I'm gonna take it outside and do 2 coats of a white spray paint. Now to fill up this bowl, you could really do a combination of anything. I'm gonna be using some of these natural rocks that I bought at Dollar Tree, and then I'm also gonna fill in with some Dollar Tree succulents. And here's a look at how it turned out. A while back, I created a rope tray inspired by this picture that I found on Pottery Barn's website that I love so much. And I wanted to create another one of the rope trays in that same grouping. So I bought a tray at Dollar Tree. I'm gonna start with my nautical rope. It is linked down in my Amazon storefront. I will put the link down below for you guys. I'm gonna start in the middle, hot gluing the nautical rope in place, and then I'll continually put hot glue around, making sure that there's no spaces in between the nautical rope. Once I get about halfway done with my rope tray, I'm gonna cut off the nautical rope and I'm gonna come in with a black macrame cord. I'm gonna wrap this around probably about 3 or 4 times doing that same hot glue technique, and then I'll cut that off. And then I'll go back to the nautical rope. I'm gonna repeat this step, adding in nautical rope and the black macrame. Once you get to the very end, you're just going to cut off your nautical rope and you can hot glue it to the back. You guys will have to let me know what you think about this grouped with the other rope tray that I created. I hope that you guys have had luck finding these big planters at Dollar Tree this year. Let me know down in the comments if you've been able to find them. They are so nice, and for $1, it's kind of crazy. I'm gonna start by poking holes at the bottom of the planter for drainage. Next, I'm going to spray paint the planter with 2 coats of a flat black spray paint. Now, that's all I had to do, and it really updated this planter. In the planter, I'm gonna be adding in a fern, which is one of my favorite plants to get. They're usually around $12 at Walmart, and it's one that I could typically keep alive, so I like to get these, and I think they just look so lush. I definitely needed to create a wreath. I'm gonna be using those gold rings that I love from Walmart. You can get them in a pack of 3 for $2.88. I'm gonna be using the larger one. I also picked up a variety of florals from Dollar Tree and also some eucalyptus garland from Walmart. So I'm gonna start by adding the eucalyptus garland to the bottom portion. Next, I'm going to be adding the white florals that I pulled off and add those to the bottom of the wreath. Now, all of these pieces I'm going to be hot gluing on. I also had this little lavender mix that had some really cool like greenery pieces. So I'm going to pull those off and add those around as well. Next, I just went in and added where I needed to add. So if I needed some more eucalyptus or some more white flowers, I added those in. Now this would be perfect on your front door. Here's a look at our wreath. Have you guys noticed that all of the high-end stores has a version of these chain links, and they're really cute. I think they make great decor, but they're so expensive. So I thought, you know, this would be fun to make. Plus, anything that's like really trendy like that, where you know it's gonna go out of style, I don't like to spend a lot of money on. So for this project, I'm going to get a tub of Crayola clay, and I want to thank you guys for recommending this clay to me. It actually works so much better than the last project where I used clay and I asked for your recommendations, so thank you, thank you. This tub that I got, I purchased off of Amazon, I'll link it for you down below, actually came with 4 packs in it, and for this project I used 2 of the packs, so you could probably buy a lesser amount. I figured I'd use it for another project, and I liked that they were sealed up, that way it's not gonna go bad. So what I decided to do to make these chains is I grabbed out just a good amount of the clay and I started to roll it out. Then I decided I needed to make it pretty uniform. So I figured out, you know, the diameter that I wanted it to be. So I thought that I wanted each of them to be about 1 inch wide in diameter. And then I used just a little cutting tool that they have at Dollar Tree, and I cut off one edge and then I cut the other edge off at 17 inches. I thought that would make it really uniform and I wouldn't have to worry about them looking different. And then I just took the 2 pieces and put them together and tried to smooth it out so you didn't see that edge link, but I wasn't really worried about that because most chains have a little link like that, so I wasn't worried about that. And then I set that piece up to the top and I repeated this for each of my links. As I kept making new links, I would check the thickness to make sure that the thickness was similar to the links that I already made because I wanted them to look pretty uniform. Then whenever I got one done and cut it, I would wrap it inside of one of my other links so that they were all connected together. Now, after you put in as many links as you want, the next thing you want to do is shape it to kind of figure out how you want it to look, because whatever shape it's in, that's how it's going to be sitting out on your coffee table. So if you want to elevate it now. Work with it until you're happy with the way that it looks. Then you want to let it dry for 24 hours. Now, I will say with this clay that the longer I let it sit, the more it dried. So I would say I didn't paint it until about day 2, but I've had it now for a long time and it's gotten harder over time. So this next part is totally your personal preference. I wanted it to first be painted white, so it was just a really consistent white color. So I went in with Waverly white chalk paint and painted it white. Now the color washing that I decided to do for this piece is I didn't really want it to have that much color, but I came in, I mixed a yellow and a red color, and I put that on. It kind of gave me like a mustardy color. And so I wiped that on and it was way too thick. So I came in with water. Anytime you want to dilute a paint, you want to add in water. So I added in water and then I took a paper towel and immediately wiped it off. So this gave me just a tiny, tiny bit of color, really not a lot at all. Then I wanted it to have a little bit of brown. So I used my Vintage Effects wash and put that on, wiped it with water the same way and wiped off any excess. So in the end, it just gave me a tiny bit of color on this piece, but that was the look I was going for. If you wanted it to be more of a wood look, you could definitely add more color. You know, really you could customize this any way you wanted. You could even go with gray. Here's a look at how it looks sitting out on my tray. Let me know what you guys think of this project. Would you do it or not? I'd love to know down in the comments. So this next project you can do with a simple drainage plate. If you do not have one, you can pick one up at Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart. I also grabbed this plant palette called Drop and Grow. So with my drainage plate, I'm going to drill holes in the bottom just for drainage. Next, I'm going to add in potting soil to the base of the drainage plate. Now with that drop and grow, I'm going to put it across the base, and then I'm going to add in additional pieces along the edge so it looks nice and full and lush. And I think this is the perfect centerpiece or interesting little plant to put on a side table, and it makes really good use of your drainage plates. So Dollar Tree has brought back their lemon decor this year. It's always super popular and I love these plates. So I decided to pick up 2 of them. I also grabbed 3 candle holders in like the candle section so I could make some trays. Now, I thought these would be great trays if you have like a summer gathering or even just as like a centerpiece on your table. I thought they'd be really pretty. So to put these together, it's so simple. I grabbed some of my construction adhesive glue. I think I used the Gorilla Glue for this, but you could use E6000, anything that's a really strong bond glue. So the first thing I did was attach the 2 smaller candle holders together to make it larger. And then I put some glue around the top edge and put my plate in the center. I did the same thing with the smaller plate. I put some glue around one of the candle holders and put the smaller plate on top. Now I wanted to show you guys how I would style these on my kitchen table. So I washed the plates completely before I did anything with them. And then I just got some pastries from the store that I added to the plates. I also picked up a few lemons that I thought would be cute sitting out around them. And here's how it turned out. So this next project was definitely an experiment, but I love experimenting with Dollar Tree items. So I grabbed 2 glass vases. Next, I picked up some wood veneer from Lowe's. This is just a sheet that's like a really thin wood, and it's great for projects. People also use it to cover furniture. This was a little bit harder to work with than I thought it was going to be. I thought about wetting it, and in the end that probably would have been a better choice, but I had already stained it, so I just kind of went with it. So I started by cutting a piece that was the size of my jar, about maybe a ½ an inch longer than my jar, and I just cut it. Then I measured up 5 inches because that's how high I wanted it to be on my board. Next, I stained it with a color called Natural, which basically is just the natural wood. So it's going to bring out the color in whatever wood you already have. I like this when I'm just really wanting a more natural look. I learned a lot of lessons from this next part. So I put E6000 on the whole entire piece and I wrapped it around. I realized to hold it in place, I was going to have something that can really wrap it. So the best technique I came up with was using painter's tape. So I just pulled the painter's tape to make it hold down in place. That gave the E6000 time to cure overnight. When I came back in and removed the tape, there were some areas on the back that still were not laying down flat. So I added in more E6000 and taped it back down again. Now I tried using hot glue and that didn't hold it. So you're gonna have to use E6000 if you do this technique. And after drying 2 nights, it worked out pretty well. Then I just came in and removed my tape on, I guess, the 3rd day. I added in some rocks at the bottom and some candles to finish it off, and here's a look at how it turned out. So this next project is only $2. So I went ahead and grabbed a glass container from Dollar Tree as well as some of their glass beads. This is inspired by something I saw on a high-end website, and I'm just going to simply hot glue these beads onto my container. When I got all the beads added on, I really liked the way this looked and almost left it clear, but I decided to take it a step farther and I spray painted it with 2 coats of white spray paint. And then when I was done doing that, I added in a succulent. succulent. You guys are gonna have to let me know in the comments. Do you prefer it clear or do you like the white? I wanted to make a distress tray for my kitchen table, so I hit up Dollar Tree for some supplies. I found these little wooden cars and thought the wheels of these would be great for making the feet to my tray. Dollar Tree didn't have the size board that I needed, so I just went out to my garage and grabbed a long board. Honestly, you can use any board you have, any size will work for this project. Now you may be able to use your scissors for this next portion, but I actually used wire cutters and it worked really well. I cut off the dowel rods that were connecting the wheels to the cars, so I was just left with the little circles. Next, I wanted my board to look really distressed, so I came in with my hammer and I just kind of had fun, tearing up this board a little bit, getting it a little bit beaten and worn looking. You can do this with a hammer, you can use pretty much anything to do this with. Next, I took the circles and I glued them to the outside of my board to make little feet. And I doubled them up so that I had two little wheel circles. If you wanted it to be higher, you could always add in additional little circles. I'm using the color Golden Oak and I'm just going to wipe on one layer and then wipe off the excess. That's all there is to making this cute tray. Next, what I did with it was I put it out on my kitchen table. I'm just gonna decorate it with some plants and a book and some candlesticks. And here's a look at how the tray turned out. Sometimes I just come across items at Dollar Tree and I know that I have to do a project with it, but I'm not exactly sure what I'm gonna do. Well, that happened when I picked up this little blue floral placemat. I just thought it was really pretty and I knew I could come up with an idea for it. So I also grabbed a container that came out around Christmas, but they have similar things like this in their party section that I was going to wrap with this placemat. Now, the placemat did not fit all the way around, so I had to cut off a little section and hot glue that to the back, and then I tucked it in and hot glued it in place. Then I began wrapping the placemat around using the nice folded section at the bottom. And then I hot glued the inside and tucked it into place. Now I actually picked up two placemats and I probably could have done this out of one if I would have been thinking, but I took my container and made a circle at the bottom, cut that out, and then I used that and hot glued it to the bottom just so the bottom looked finished. Now you could do anything with this. I added in some books and here's how it turned out. So I wanted to create a bead garland and I grabbed some beads that I already had on hand, just some wood ones. Dollar Tree has a huge selection of beads, so you could grab a bunch of different ones there. They just don't have the wood kind or the larger kind that I'm looking for. I grabbed a bamboo skewer and I took some of my painter's tape and kind of put it at the top. And then I strung the beads onto the bamboo skewers and then taped it at the other end. This is going to make spray painting these a lot easier. So I did that until I had 50 beads. Next, I'm going to spray paint the beads with the color Little Black Dress by Color Shot. I love this black color and can see myself using it quite a bit. So what I'm gonna do with the beads is I'm gonna spray one area, then I'm gonna try to twist it and kind of move the beads around and spray it again. I have found this is a way better technique than what I used to do, which is just put them in a container and spray them all at once. I had to do it a lot more. Once that dries, then you can kind of flip them over again and do a second coat. I only had to spray these beads twice because I used this technique of putting them onto the skewers. Next, you can take some Dollar Tree twine and you're just going to lace all of your beads on the Dollar Tree twine. Now, I wanted this to connect in the middle, so simply all I'm going to do is tie a knot when I get all the beads on. And you can drape this over your home decor and it just looks so great sitting out. I love that Dollar Tree has out all of their spring items right now. I picked up one of these little tins from Dollar Tree. They had these last year and they're great for projects. Next, I'm going to use some of my macrame cord. I'm going to start on the back and I'm just going to hot glue it to the back and start wrapping it around, hot gluing whenever I get to the back. Now, I use this macrame cord in a lot of projects. I will link to it down in the description box so you can go check it out. Next, I wanted to spray paint this piece, so I'm going to be taping off the top half of it. So I'm just going to take my painter's tape and go about halfway up and tape it off. Now, I didn't want to get any spray paint on the top, so I grabbed some of my craft paper and I'm just going to tape that around the top so I completely seal off the top edge. Next, I'm going to flip it upside down and I'm going to come in with my spray paint. Now, whenever you're spray painting fabric or yarn, you can actually go a little bit heavier with your spray paint. So I went in and only did one coat of this black spray paint by Rust-Oleum. Next, I removed the tape and I set it out in my hallway, and I'm gonna add in one of my favorite new plants. This is a hanging plant that I got at IKEA, and I'm just going to put that in and kind of move the branches around, and I just think this looks so gorgeous. Next, we're going to be making some coasters for our outdoor space whenever we have fun gatherings. Cricut has this new product called infusible ink that's amazing, and I don't know how it works, but it's super cool. You can buy products from Cricut called Cricut Blanks. So they have Cricut Blank coasters. So I picked up a set of 4 of those. And I went into Cricut Design Space and typed in coasters so I could get them the exact size of the blanks, and I just made 4 of them. Next, I sent them to print. I had to print them out on 2 different mats. It basically just cut out a big circle for me. Now, to add these to your coasters, you're going to use a heat press or some kind of heat source. You could use an iron or whatever you have. So you're going to put down your heat mat. Next, I put a piece of cardboard down just to kind of hold it secure. Then I'm going to lay down the infusible ink with the ink side up. I'm gonna take my coaster and put the shiny side down so that when it heats, it's going to fuse the two together. Then I'm going to put this little cloth and then I'm gonna put the heat press on top. My heat press is gonna be set at 400 degrees and I'm gonna put it on there for 240 seconds. I'm just gonna set it on there. Then when the 240 seconds is done, take the heat press off, let it cool completely, then you're gonna remove it, and let me just tell you, this is infused. I mean, you don't need anything else. Like, I wish you guys could feel this and see how smooth of a finish this is. It's pretty cool. This is gonna be dishwasher safe. You can do it on cups and mugs. This is really neat. Here is how I styled the coasters out on my patio. So I always like easy macrame DIYs, you guys. So that's exactly what we're gonna be doing. So I'm taking that chalkboard sign that we used earlier. You need something that's hard that you can make your yarn about the same size. And this is so easy to do. I maybe wrapped it around 20, 30 times. It really doesn't matter. I'm just going to lay the pieces over top and then I'm gonna put some hot glue in the middle. I'm not even tying them. That's all I'm going to do. I'm gonna do this all the way across. This did take quite a bit of yarn. I think I used maybe 1.5 of the yarn spools from Dollar Tree, so make sure you get 2. Once I got all of my yarn on, I started with some of my nautical rope. I'll link it down below for you. And I'm just going to wrap it around to kind of cover up where the top of that white piece kind of lays. And I wrapped it around maybe 5 or 6 times until I thought it looked good. This is total personal preference. And then I just hot glued it on the back. Next, I wanted to make the pieces as even as possible, so I kind of laid them out and gave them a little haircut at the bottom. This doesn't have to be perfect, just do your best. And here's a look at how this macrame turned out. I would say my favorite thing this year that I have found at Dollar Tree are these cool little hanging shelves. I find these at places like Five Below, and you see them in all the stores, but to find them for $1 is so awesome. So I picked up 3 of them at Dollar Tree. So I'm gonna be making a simple continuous shelf, and I wanted to show you how to do that. So you're gonna keep one of your shelves completely intact. Then you're going to take another shelf and you're going to cut the strings off at the top wherever that metal piece is. I just took the metal piece out and cut it at the top. Next, I'm going to leave my shelf that I have intact the way it is. And then with the shelf that I cut, I'm going to take those pieces of twine and I'm going to tie them around the knots at the bottom of my top shelf. Once I tie a knot, I'm also going to add in some hot glue just to hold them and make them really secure. Now, the thing that you want to make sure is that your shelf is as level as possible so that when you add decor to this, it's not going to fall off. You're going to repeat those same steps with another shelf on the bottom. Now, you could make this as tall as you wanted. I just added in the 3 shelves. Now, I knew I would have questions on how to decorate this, so I wanted to show you guys me actually decorating this. So I think with a shelf like this, you want to pick similar items. So I went with terracotta pots since it's spring and summer, and I added terracotta pots to all 3 of my shelves. Then I added in a little bit of greenery, and I'm also going to be using accent white pieces just to kind of tie the whole look together. When you do a shelf like this, you just want to make sure that you pick similar colors so it all looks cohesive. And here's a look at how the shelf turned out. So I have to tell you guys, this was a complete experiment. I took the placemat that we picked up and I had a stack of cups. Honestly, you could use anything. Next, I grabbed a rubber band and I put it around like the bottom, so it was about an inch down from the top. Next, this was kind of the experiment. So I got a little spray bottle of water and I mixed it with Mod Podge that I had on hand because I was trying to create like a spray adhesive that I could let set overnight and hopefully harden the piece so it kind of had that fun shape to it and made more of like an abstract piece. I had to put a ton of glue on this. I put it on the outside. I also put it on the inside, and then I did that exact thing. I let it sit completely overnight. I was blown away, you guys, when I came back the next day. It really held in place. Now, if I could do this again, I would try to make the base a little bit more sturdy, but that was minor. Next, I used probably 3 coats of spray paint on the inside of and the out with that white color. But here's how the piece looks on my coffee table. I have to say I was pretty impressed with it. So I told my husband that this next project was probably my new favorite project. And of course he looked at me like I was crazy because he definitely sees all the DIYs in our house. But I love the way this turned out, you guys. So I picked up a green planter at Dollar Tree. Next, I went outside and grabbed a large stick. Now you want this to be about, I would say about 3/4 of an inch to an inch in diameter. I didn't film myself cutting this down because when I cut this down, it was when the temperatures were like in the negatives. So it was just enough for me to run out to my backyard to get a stick and bring it inside. So sorry there's no clip of me getting this stick. Now I did trim up my stick a little bit so that it was in the shape of, basically I was wanting it to kind of be in more of a topiary shape. So you want it to have some branches to it. So I wanted the base of it to just be real clean, and then I wanted a few sticks at the top that I could use to add in some more branches. I went to Walmart and I grabbed 3 of their olive branches. These are in the floral section. They're $3 each. I've gotten these several times, so hopefully your store has them. Next, I'm going to start cutting off the individual branches. I want them to be about this long, but you'll see as you get them that when you cut them off, that's about how long they are. Now, how are we going to add these to our tree? Well, I wanted it to look really realistic. So what I did was I took my drill and I put a drill bit on that was about the same thickness as my branches. And I started to drill down into my tree branch. Now you have to be really careful when you do this. You don't want to press too hard, otherwise your branch is just going to snap. That's why I said make sure it's at least 3/4 to an inch thickness. That way it's not going to automatically break whenever you start doing this. And then I'm just going to drill down. Now, if you drill down at an angle, that's going to help whenever you stick the branch in for it to kind of stick up at like the right type of angle that a normal branch would stick out. Like if you did it just sideways, it's going to kind of stick out to the side. So I started by just drilling holes all around and sticking my branches in. Now, some of my branches went through and they stuck really well. Some of them I had to add in some hot glue, so it may just vary, but I did have my hot glue gun out, and if I needed it, I'd add a little bit of hot glue to the branch to put it in. Now, as you're doing this, start kind of forming your branches. So kind of move them up, twist them, just to kind of see what they're gonna look like. Then you can see the areas where you need to add in more. I wanted to get my tree set in the pot before I went any farther. Now you could use concrete for this. What I had on hand was plaster of Paris. So what I did was I just put the plaster in the existing pot and then I added in water. When I first did this, I had a little bit of a mess because I forgot about the little opening down at the bottom. So I quickly took some hot glue and just put hot glue on the edge so that I sealed that up so that it wasn't a problem. But you're just gonna mix your plaster or your cement with water until it's about, I would say, 3/4 of the way up. And then I put my plant in the middle. To hold this in place, you could probably use some popsicle sticks. I had some wooden spoons, so I put those around, but that wasn't strong enough to hold it. So I actually had to use painter's tape and tape around this so it could really hold in place. I let this sit and dry for 24 hours. Then I came back the next day and took the tape off. Some of the areas where I cut the branch off, I just felt like they stuck out too much. So I went in with my gray elephant paint and just lightly painted over those areas. I also came in with a white paint and painted over it as well. And yes, it looks like paint, but I think it makes it blend in more. And if you're back from a distance, you don't notice that it's paint. Now I still had a few leaves and branches and olives left. So what I decided to now was go in with my hot glue gun and just start putting in olives and like little branches where I felt like there was some empty areas or sparse areas. Then I filled the whole entire thing up with rocks. I love this piece so much, I put it up on my mantle. I love heading to the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree. There's always so many great finds. One of the things I found were these wood oval pieces, and I picked up 3 of them. I started by drawing a line on either side of my pieces where I wanted to cut it off with my saw. Next, I lined all 3 pieces up and cut them with my saw, and I repeated this on the other side as well. Now, after you're done cutting your pieces, if you have any rough edges, you can always sand those down. I grabbed some magnets at Dollar Tree and I'm just gonna hot glue those to the back of my wood pieces. And I think these make really nice looking magnets on my fridge. I'm loving these bowls. They're really thick and high quality plastic. I definitely think we could do something with these. I love all these chalk writing markers at Dollar Tree. My favorite is the white one, but you can get them in silver and gold and a variety of colors. Look at this one. This is a chalkboard paint. We're gonna try this one out. So I'm gonna take the 2 bowls that I grabbed, and next I'm gonna stack the larger one on top of the smaller one. I'm gonna use the DAP Rapid Fuse Fast Curing Gel because this sets up in about 30 minutes, and I'm gonna put a bead on the base and then put the bowl on top. I'll let that set for a while. Then I'm gonna come back in with that Dollar Tree chalkboard paint. I was really excited to use this. I'm using a foam brush and putting on about 2 coats. I let each coat dry in between before I added an additional coat. Next, I'm gonna use that chalk writer from Dollar Tree and just put some fun little hash marks along the edge. And this is how I styled it on my coffee table. So I went back and forth on what to do with these glass containers, you guys. I really was like racking my brain on how I wanted these to look. In the end, I decided that I wanted them to be a straight row and I thought they would make a cool centerpiece. So I'm going to start by just hot gluing a tiny bead in the center of these together. Now you can put as many of these as you want. I just kind of did an amount that I thought looked good for me. Next, I'm gonna take some Dollar Tree ribbon that they have and I'm just going to glue it to the front and I'll wrap it around the back. This kind of hides that glue mark that you just put on. You guys saw that I grabbed these cool little florals at Dollar Tree. I really didn't know exactly how many I was gonna put in. I started by just putting in the blue ones, but I felt like that looked a little sparse. So then I went in with just some of their Dollar Tree greenery and just kind of added some stems. I added in some of the brown colors as well. And here's a look at how it turned out. Next, we're gonna make a really cool rug from Dollar Tree products. So I picked up a rectangular rug at Dollar Tree. So I wanted my rug to actually be a half circle. So I found this piece of basket weave that I had in my craft room to make it be a nice curved little section, and I taped it down. Next, I traced around that edge to give me that nice even curve. Then I went in and I cut off the excess. Next, I'm going to be using a nautical rope. Now, I ended up using 1.5 spools of this off of Amazon. So I started by making loops at the top of my rope, trying to make the loops as even as possible. And then I would hot glue them to the base of the rug, the black part of the rug, I would hot glue those down. And I made those loops all the way around. Now I actually kind of figured out this pattern as I was going. Next, I added in 3 rows of nautical rope. From there, I went to the bottom of my little loop section and started adding in more nautical rope. Then I created another loop section by just hot gluing them together. And I didn't measure this. I tried to just make it as even as possible when I was creating my loops. Then I finished the piece off by just continuing on with the nautical rope. And here's a look at how this rug turned out. Another really cool thing I found at Dollar Tree that's new are these cute little rocks. I knew I had to pick them up and do a little project with them. You're gonna need any glass container for this project. Mine is from Walmart. They don't sell a similar container to this at Dollar Tree, but really you could use anything you had on hand. So I'm going to add some rocks to the bottom of my container. Next, I'm going to add in a succulent. You can use a Dollar Tree succulent. This is an air plant that I have from Walmart, and I think it's just adorable. I feel like it's been forever since I've made a pillow out of a rug on my channel. So when I was walking down that section, I found this green fabric and I thought it'd be perfect for a pillow. Now you could definitely sew that, and I've done that on my channel before, but I wanted to give you a really simple option. So all you need are 2 rugs. You're gonna lay them out flat with the sides you like facing out. And then the sides that are folded over, those are gonna be facing in. You're gonna hot glue on 3 of the sides. You're gonna press that down firmly just to hold it in place. Now to fill this, you could use an already pre-formed pillow. I had some stuffing on hand, so I'm just going to add in stuffing. You can buy this at Joann's, the thrift store, really a ton of different places. You could use stuffing from another pillow. Once I have it as full as I want it to be, I'm just going to hot glue the end. And here's a look at how my $2 pillow turned out. So for this next project, I love the way this turned out. You want to get any planter from Dollar Tree. I suggest getting one that's as straight as possible. I know they're not all straight. This one kind of does one of these, but just try to get it as straight as possible because we're going to be gluing stuff to the edges, and it's going to be easier if we can get it to lay as flat as possible. Next, I have this pack of shims that I bought at Home Depot. You get them in like a pack of 50 and they're just a couple of dollars. I've used these for so many projects, you guys. So I'm gonna start with my pack of shims and I'm going to measure out how long a piece is to cover my planter, and I'm gonna mark it at the bottom. I used my simple wire cutters to cut this. You could use your saw. I don't think regular scissors are going to be good enough to cut it. So I'm going to cut off a shim. Then I'm going to measure out additional shims to cut off. So I'm going to cut out enough shims so that I can get all the way around my planter. Next, I wanted it to kind of have like a fun multi-stain look. So some of the containers I stained with a natural color, others I added in kind of like my medium golden oak color. I also used special walnut for the darker color. I'm just going to put one coat of stain on there, wipe off the excess. Let the stain dry completely. Next, we're gonna go back in and we're gonna hot glue these on. Now, with some of the pieces, there's going to be an overlap. That's okay, that's just gonna have to happen. And you're just going to hot glue them on and hold them, until they kind of set up before you move on to the next one. Don't worry if this looks a little rugged, that's kind of the point of it, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Now I wanted to add some legs to the bottom, so I got out some of my wood beads. I'll link to the ones I used down in the description box, and I'm just going to hot glue them to the bottom. You could add a real or faux plant, but I think this planter is super cute. I picked up 6 canvas at Dollar Tree. I also grabbed 2 different types of seashells and a container of rocks. Now to start this DIY, I'm going to use a generous amount of Mod Podge on my canvas. Then I'm going to lay out the shells. I'm going to keep all the same shells on one canvas, and I'm going to create 2 canvases with each variety of shell or rocks. You want to make sure that you add quite a bit of Mod Podge whenever you're doing this, just to make sure it holds everything in place. Once you get all 6 canvases done, I'm going to take them outside and spray paint them a flat white spray paint just to give it a cohesive look. I love the textured look of this on my wall. My outdoor patio wouldn't be complete without having some fresh herbs, so I wanted to make some really cute signs. I found these little chalkboard signs with the clips on the back at Dollar Tree. Now these are typically pretty easy to find, so I created some labels for the front of these. So I just went into Cricut Design Space, picked out a font that I like, and then I typed out the herb names. I'm gonna print these out on a white smart vinyl. And then I'll just weed them out. I'm gonna use transfer tape to put them on my little chalk signs. Now for my plants, I actually picked up a couple of pots at Walmart. They were $2.50, but I liked how they had the drainage. You could also get something similar at Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to transfer the herbs to these cute little white pots. And then I'm gonna clip the labels on the top and style them on my coffee table. Now in the garden section, I love these little floral scissors. These are great, they work really well, only $1. Now I haven't tried their shears, so let me know down in the comments if you guys like the shears at Dollar Tree. Make sure you check out all of the party sections. I'm over in the grad section. They have these adorable little floating frames. You can put a 4x4 picture in there, so cute. I'm gonna use those scissors I picked up and I'm going to take out the back components of the floating frame. I printed off a picture in color that I had on my computer and I'm just going to cut it out so it's the size of the 4x4 frame. Next, I'll just put it into the frame, and I'm also going to add that backing piece to put a little white border around the edge. And this is just a fun way to add a picture. You could put this in your kids' room or anywhere. It would also make a fun gift. So I grabbed this soap container at Dollar Tree. I'm gonna spray paint it with 2 coats of a matte black spray paint. That's all I did. I just made sure it was completely covered, and look how cool this looks in my bathroom. Now, Dollar Tree has hanging planters for just $1, so I picked up one at the store and we're going to update it a little bit. So I started by poking holes at the bottom of the planter. There's like these little tiny circles for drainage, and that's just gonna help whenever you put your plant in there. Next, I'm gonna spray the planter with 2 coats of Rust-Oleum black spray paint, and I'm also going to be using a flat spray paint. Now I'm gonna be using my Cricut Joy to come up with a really fun design, and I wanna thank Cricut for sponsoring today's video. You guys, I've been loving the Cricut Joy. I use it all the time. It's so convenient. Being able to just type things in on my phone, it doesn't get any better than that. I love going to the Cricut Design Space and finding designs that are already put together. Like, it's so easy. So I'm gonna be using this tropical phone case, but I'm gonna be using it for my planter. So I just took the pieces into Design Space, made them the correct size that I needed them to be, and then I duplicated it so I had actually 8 of the tropical leaves. Now I'm gonna be putting this on gold vinyl, so I'm going to send it to cut on my Cricut Joy. So I'm gonna peel off the excess Cricut material with my weeder. Next, I'm gonna place the leaves onto my planter. Now, I get a lot of questions. Liz, why aren't you using transfer tape? I'm gonna tell you why. So anytime you spray paint something and you use transfer tape, a lot of times the spray paint will pull up. So I find it just easier to pull it off and put it on the item that I want it to be on. I was making it look really freeform too, like I wanted some of the leaves at the bottom, some kind of at the middle. I wanted it to look really artistic. To replace the cord that was in the planter when I bought it, I'm gonna be using some nautical rope. So I'm just going to string that through the 3 little sides and tie it in place. And then I'll pull all of the strings up to the top and tie them together. Now I went to Walmart and picked up this really pretty hanging plant that was pink and beautiful. So I added that to my pot and hung it up outside on my patio. Now I know I'm gonna get questions about my TV. I recently found this program on Netflix, and it's a TV show called Motion Art, and basically you can put it on your TV and it plays just like all this really cool scenery. Now I don't leave this on all the time, but when I'm photographing things for you guys, I think it's cool to have a picture up there. You may use it like if you had a party or something, but if you're somebody who has like that just ugly TV on your fireplace like I do, I think it's a great way to turn it into a picture. You guys are gonna have to let me know if you knew about this channel on Netflix. So I'm gonna start by painting this entire canvas. I had this Blue Moon milk paint that I really love the color for. I bought it off of Amazon. I'll link it for you down below. And I'm just gonna do 2 coats on the entire canvas with this paint. So I found these little wood picks the last time I was at Dollar Tree, and I just thought they would make a really cool wall art. Now, honestly, you guys, I wasn't sure if this would turn out. I wanted them to be in a circle shape. So I first started just by laying them out to see if it would even look right. I decided that I wanted to do all the gold little beads about the same distance from each other. Once I got kind of the positioning figured out, I came in with the DAP Rapid Fuse gel to put them on there. And you can see I just put a little bit of gel at the base, and then then I'm putting the little picks on top of it. What I like about this over hot glue is it's gonna dry and you're not gonna be able to see it. Plus, I was able to position it and I didn't have to have it perfect right away. But this is how it turned out, and I think it makes a really cool wall art piece. Now I thought it would be fun to have a really pretty watering can sitting out. So the watering can I've had for a few years. I picked it up at the Target dollar spot and I love using it. I'm gonna be using a floral design that was in the design space for this project. So I'm gonna put it into design space and I'm gonna size it to the correct size that I want. And I'm going to make 2 of them. So I'm going to be using vinyl for this. I have a whole array of vinyls to choose from, and I'm going to be using like this dark hunter green color, and I'm going to cut it down to size so it fits on my mat that goes in the Cricut Joy. And I'm gonna press go and let it cut out. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with the Cricut Joy, it's Cricut's newest machine. It's very compact, so it's great for smaller jobs, but really I haven't found a job that I haven't been able to use it for. I've used it for t-shirts, any decor items that I have, and it's so handy. I'm able to just literally pull it over from my shelf, and I just love the size of it. It's honestly the perfect little machine for me. So after it's done cutting, I'm gonna weed out the vinyl, and then I'm gonna use transfer tape to put it onto my watering can. And here's a look at how it looks on my patio. I really hope that you guys are able to find those little florals because they're just so cute. So I started by removing all the labels from the chalkboard, and I have to tell you, it was quite the chore. They were stuck on there really well. I got out my Goo Gone to really try to get out all the residue. Next, I removed the hangers from all of the pieces. And I'm going to be using those popsicle sticks that we used earlier, and I'm just going to add some hot glue as support pieces between my 2 signs. Make sure your signs are completely connected before you do this, and I'll do this with a 3rd board as well. Next, I'm just going to mix and match the little greenery until I like the way that it looks. Now, these aren't very heavy, so I was able to put these on there with just hot glue. Again, make sure you're using the construction adhesive glue because if your glue is not that great, it's not going to hold. I also added twine as my hanger on this and just tied it on one edge really well and then tied it to the other edge. So to cover up the holes, I just grabbed some of those popsicle sticks and put black marks on a Sharpie and hot glued them to the back so you weren't able to see the little holes. And here is a final look at how it looks. This would be so cute in your kitchen, but I'm showing you how it looks on my backdrop. So one of my favorite summer finds are the solar lights that you can pick up at Dollar Tree. I grabbed 3 of them for this project. Whenever I need wood, I go to my garage where we have quite a few scraps. I actually picked up this piece of lumber back in the fall when I made these cute little pumpkins. So I thought this would be perfect for this project that I wanted to do. So I'm gonna cut 3 pieces so that they're at like 3 different heights. I really wasn't concerned about how long they were. I just wanted a small, medium, and large one. Next, I'm gonna pop off the bottom portion of the solar light. I'm gonna drill a hole down into the center of the wood pieces that I cut. Now my hole, I have to drill it far enough down so that I could fit that little portion at the bottom of the solar light into that little enclosure. Next, I'm going to use some nautical rope that I had on hand, and I'm going to start at the back and I'm going to hot glue it around my wood pieces at the bottom. Now I wrapped this around about 6 times, and I repeated this for all 3 of my wood pieces. Next, I'm just gonna pop the solar lights into my wood. Now these were pretty snug, so I didn't have to add any additional glue, but if they wouldn't have been as snug, I probably would have added in glue. And these are great to put out on your outdoor spaces, or you could put them at your front porch and they just have a nice glow at night. So I'm going to start with the canvases first. I'm just going to take the 4 canvases and remove the canvas part as well as the nails in the back. I just use my little wire cutters and pull the nails out, and I find that that works the best for me. Here are the craft sticks I got. They are a jumbo one. So all I did was just kind of cut off the ends of each of the popsicle sticks. Next, I'm gonna go in and measure them because I don't want them to hang off the edge. So I'm just gonna draw a line across, and I was able to use my regular scissors to cut these popsicle sticks. I was okay if there was a little bit of area in between each one, and you may have to cut your last popsicle stick lengthwise. It just kind of depends on the size that you use. And I repeated this step for all 4 of the canvases. Make sure when you do this, you put your popsicle sticks on the side with the nail holes. Next, I'm going to use my hot glue to attach all 4 of the sides. I do recommend with your hot glue to use a construction adhesive glue like the Gorilla Glue sticks. I will link them down below. I love using these. Next, I'm going to sand down any of the rough edges with my sandpaper. Now I wanted to make this look like my inspiration photo, so I'm going to spray paint it with 2 coats of a black spray paint. You could dress this up with any kind of real plant or faux plant. I'm using these little greenery pieces that I found at Dollar Tree, and I added in about 5 of them. Do you guys ever check out the candle section at Dollar Tree? I really feel like they've been stepping up their game lately with some awesome, like, decorative candles. I was so excited to find these little decorative candles. I thought this kind of like peach, blue, and yellow colors were just perfect for spring, so I couldn't pass them up. So I grabbed these 3 containers. I wanted to make them a little bit more modern, so this is definitely an easy 5-minute DIY you can do. So I grabbed a metallic gold paint that I had in my stash, and I'm just going to paint around the bottom edge of these containers. I thought that it would kind of update these candles a little bit and give them more of a modern look. And I ended up doing 2 coats of this gold paint. And here's a look at how these candles turned out. I was really inspired by the colors in the candles that I just created to create this next project. So I grabbed 6 gold frames from Dollar Tree. I also picked up some of their floral stems in like a peach, yellow, and blue color. I'm going to start by removing the backing of all the frames, and I'm going to take out the glass because I'm going to need 2 sheets of glass for each of my frames. I'm also going to pull out those little backing pieces on the back. I don't know exactly what those are called, but you don't need those. Next, I'm going to lay a piece of glass down, making sure that it's really clean. And I'm going to take some of my florals and just create a little floral design on there. Now, the thing I learned from doing this is that it has to be fairly flat, because if you want to sandwich both pieces of glass together, it's gonna have to be flat. So I grabbed some florals, and on each of my frames, I concentrated on one color. I hot glued the flowers to the glass. Once I had the colors that I wanted, I then took another piece of glass and sandwiched it together. You're going to want to add hot glue to hold this all together on your frame. You can do that by just adding a little bit of hot glue on the edge. You can also make it even more secure by adding in some E6000. This will help it hold really well. And I repeated this step for all 3 of my frames. Now, to take it a step further, I wanted to have something cute to hang it with. So I grabbed this plant hanger at Dollar Tree. I went out and spray painted it with a coat of gold spray paint. Next, I'm just going to disassemble this plant hanger and then use one of the hangers for each of my frames. And I'm just going to hot glue it to the back using a generous amount of hot glue. From there, I let it set and dry completely, and then you can hang this on your wall. And I think this is just a really cute arrangement for spring and summer. You guys may be noticing a color trend here. I was just really inspired by these colors when I was shopping. I saw these adorable little containers, and I'm not gonna do a DIY with it, but I wanted to get these for you to show you guys how you could update your office or just different areas of your house for really inexpensive to kind of make it look seasonal. So these are really fresh for spring. You could add in markers, scissors on your office desk, and I think these are so adorable for spring. So I'm going to start with the skewers, and I'm just going to measure how long my picture frame is and cut it down so that the skewer is not hanging below my picture. Next, I'm going to spray paint it with 2 coats of a matte black spray paint. Now the picture I love, I'm not going to do anything different. I'm just going to take off the hanger on the back, and then I'm going to add in hot glue for this hanger. Now this hanger is just going to be decorative. It's not going to actually hold it, but if you wanted it to, you could just add a little bit more glue to it. And here's a look at how it turned out.